When's the last time your reader had a whole day with nothing on the calendar? No school pickups for the kids or grandkids, no doctor's appointments for aging parents, no Zoom meetings, no place to be. For a lot of women, that's what summer is supposed to be. But then July arrives, and instead of feeling rested, she's feeling a little lost or just as busy with a completely different set of demands. Either way, your reader needs your encouraging message more than you might realize this summer. So today we're kicking off our quarterly 3-part mini-series called Get Inside Your Readers' Heads, and we're starting with July. And this series is all about reading the room your reader is sitting in each month so you can plan content that meets her right where she is, whether you're hosting your own show or guesting on someone else's. And before we dive in, if you're multitasking, be sure to grab the third quarter content planning guide linked in the show notes. It walks you through all 3 months' talking points from these episodes. Plus, it gives you prompts if you use AI to assist with marketing ideas. That way, you're not ever starting from scratch. Now, this series is built around my 3S content method, and that's struggle, support, and showing up. And today, I want to walk you through all 3 of those listeners in the context of July, because understanding who's actually in the room when you're speaking is what makes your content land for everybody, not just the one person you wrote your book for. I know, this goes against the grain of the talk to one person, but stick with me, okay, y'all? Let's start first with struggle. This is your target reader, the one living with the exact problem your book solves. So think about, what is she carrying in July? You know, when we think of July, we think of cookouts, vacations, fireworks, long evenings outside, if you have a fan like us in Texas. But inside your reader's mind is where the real story of July is happening. She finally slowed down for the summer. But when the noise of a busy spring stops and the calendar clears and there's actual margin for the first time in months, she might not know what to do with herself, right? She might be asking, who am I when I'm not producing? Is this really what rest is supposed to look like? What am I doing with what God has given me? And then there's the reader where summer was supposed to slow down, but it didn't. Her kids or grandkids are home. Her parents need taken care of. The schedule is different, but somehow even busier. The version of summer your reader pictured back in May is nowhere in sight. I remember this being my own summer when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with breast cancer, and my 2 young sons, one with autism, and I would take her to her doctor's appointments and her chemo appointments that summer. And looking back, it was such a precious time that we talk about now. But boy, back when we were in the thick of it, oh my goodness, that was another story, and certainly not the summer we planned for. So if your target reader is a mom in the sandwich gap, July always carries exhaustion, right? Because she loves her people, but she's also completely overwhelmed. That's actually a theme you can use any time of the year, not just July. But also, July can bring the comparison trap that summer can trigger, because everybody's vacation photos are everywhere, right? Everybody else's summers look effortless and full and fun. And if your reader's doesn't, then disappointment and envy can start to creep in for her. Ooh, ask me how I know. That's your struggling reader in July. Think about her feelings and how your message can meet her there. Now, let's talk about support. This listener isn't facing the exact struggle your book solves today, but she loves someone who is. Whether that's her child, a family member, a close friend, maybe even her spouse. That person is your target reader. And this listener is either looking for something to pass along to them, or she wants to read your book herself so she knows how to help them. She might have a teenager or grandchild at home struggling with mental health challenges without the school day structure. Or she's watching a loved one wrestle with a big decision, a job change, a relationship shift, a medical treatment, something that doesn't pause for summer, and she wants to show up for them well. She just needs the right words and the right resource to hand them. And then for your showing up listener, she's not facing this struggle personally either, but she serves people who do. She leads a small group at church. She runs a nonprofit. She's a counselor, a teacher, a coach, a mentor. Your target reader is sitting in her circle. Remember, when you're guesting on somebody else's podcast, you have no idea who is listening. You don't know if your target reader is even in the room, but you can almost guarantee that someone listening loves and or serves your target reader. And she's paying attention, hoping you'll give her the right words and the right resources so she can support and show up for others well. So that's your July room. When your content caters to what listeners need to hear that month, then you don't have to worry about them thinking, nope, this topic's not for me, and turning the episode off. Now, let's talk about how podcasting can meet your listeners in July. First, you can use episodes on your own show. When you're serving your own audience, you know your listeners and you can speak directly to the struggle your book solves. July is a great month to talk about identity, rest, what it means to stay grounded when the school year structure disappears. If your book touches on faith, purpose, mental health, relationships, or personal growth, there's a July angle there. And secondly, you could do a pop-up bonus episode on your own show. If you've already batched your July content, you don't have to scrap anything. Just record a short 5 to 8 minute check-in and tuck it between your scheduled episodes. Just a raw, from the heart episode. That's what listeners are craving right now. And a third way is guesting on someone else's show. And this is where serving the support and showing up listeners really helps. Because on somebody else's platform, you don't always know who's listening, right? You might not be talking to your target reader. So lean into the support and showing up ideas we talked about before. You don't even have to mention July specifically. Frame it as what happens during any seasonal break. And when you share your guest episode later with your own email list and social media followers, you can always add the seasonal, right on time angle right there. Then fourth is the Short Stack podcast, my favorite call to action when guesting if you don't already have your own podcast. Instead of sending listeners to your website or just mentioning your book, what if you invited them to a short podcast that's waiting for them right there in their app? 6 short episodes that go deeper on the struggle your book solves, built once and works for you all summer long and into the fall. You know, the ask is so natural for these. You could just say, I have a short podcast that goes deeper on this topic. And since you're already in a podcast app, just click the link in the show notes and keep listening. That's it. Just one warm next step that keeps the listener relationship going. Now, please know that all these ideas are just that, ideas. You know your reader best and what she needs to hear in July to lead her closer to buying, reading, or referring your book to others. And even though we get out of our normal routines in July, I think there's actually more on-the-go listening time, especially in short bursts. Whether she's sitting on a porch, sipping lemonade, driving down the road with the windows down and the 80s music blasting, or finally starting that exercise routine she's been putting off for months, when your content shows up in that space, it makes her feel seen and she's going to remember it and she's going to share it. So come back next episode and we'll talk about August, sometimes the most emotionally complicated month of the year. We'll read the room and see how your message can meet someone who's struggling, supporting, or showing up for others as summer winds down. Thanks for tuning into Book Marketing Mania, and as always, I'll be there for you next episode to help you reach and serve your readers one podcast at a time. See you then.